remind everybody for the sake of the recording. Use only rows and columns, okay? Do not go beyond this kind of structure. Make sure that the first row is set for headers, which is this setting over here. Make sure that the header row button is selected. In the installed version of Word, under the Table Design tab, the header row checkbox is all the way to the left. And in the browser version, the header row checkbox is, it's actually a toggle button in the browser version, is in the middle, okay? All right, so design your tables with simplicity and efficiency in mind. This is where it becomes an art and not where it becomes technical. You have to design your tables. You have to design your data and your tables in such a way as that your data is presentable and understandable in this kind of a format. Okay, that's not something I can teach you here because I don't know your data. But here's the thing about tables, okay? The information doesn't only have to be presented in the table. And this is what I'm telling people when I talk about taking accessibility to the highest degree in both Word and in applications such as Excel. You can present information in the table above the table, okay? So what I tell people is you're going to have some data here. You can also, if you want to go to the nth degree in accessibility, present people with a brief summary of what the table is saying. If you do that, you will be an instant hero. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, the screen reader will read that summary to the person who needs the screen reader so that the person is not solely responsible for reading the information in or trying to understand the information inside the table, okay? But number two, human nature likes, the human brain likes simplicity and efficiency, okay? And so what happens is that data in a table is great. And if it's presented well, it's digestible. But human beings like simplicity. If you place a summary, a brief summary of what the table says above that table, then even the sighted reader will absolutely appreciate what you are trying to relay, and it will make the information in the table that much more understandable. Okay? So, and I understand that some kinds of data don't necessarily lend themselves to simplified representation. Okay, there may be scientific data, statistical data, mathematical data that you're trying to present in a table. So what you need to think about is that the table is only one aspect of presenting that data to your readers. Another aspect of presenting that data to the readers is a brief, understandable, concise, clear summary above the table, what the table is representing, what the data basically says, or what the trends may be, or whatever it is you're trying to relay, which makes the information in the table much more understandable. So far, so good? Anybody have any questions? All right. So as you can see, there aren't very many do's. It's very, very simple. And that's the beauty of it. Use only rows and columns. Make sure the first row has headings in it, meaning make sure that the header row button or checkbox is on, okay? And design your tables with simplicity and efficiency in mind. Okay, so those are the do's. let's talk about some of the don'ts. All right? And I see this all the time. Merging cells. So what you'll see a lot, and I'm going to go to the bottom here, is you'll see a table that looks something like this. What people will frequently do, and there's nothing terribly wrong with it as far as the sighted reader is concerned. They will have their table structure, their rows and columns, and then they'll take the very first row and they will merge the whole thing together, and they will go ahead and put a table title in it. That's fine. That's no good anymore. Okay? The other thing it may screw up is the header row, because accessibility wants the top row of the table to be the header row. Well, this table has a top row, but it's not the header row. So now you've got a second row over here where you've got your headings, but it's not considered the header row. So this is no good anymore. So what do? Well, it's very simple, guys. All you do is at the top of your table is where you put your table title. You can put an extra row, an extra space in between the table title and the text above it, and then the human brain will automatically tie the table title and the table together, and therefore eliminating the need to merge cells. So then under the table title is where you can place the table summary, table without a semicolon, and on and on and on, and then the table. Okay? I have seen many tables with merges that look like this for whatever reason. Lots of different reasons. That cannot happen from this point forward. If you don't want to have the aggravation of dealing with accessibility errors and somebody who needs the reader being upset that you didn't do the accessibility right for the table, you are going to promise to never merge your cells again. Okay? Now, the other sin is splitting cells. Okay? So I can have a cell over here and I can split the cell, and I can split it into any number of rows and columns. Okay, so number of columns, number of rows. So now I have this split cell. And okay, hang on one second, Cindy, about Excel. That's a little bit more of a complicated question for Excel, because what Cindy is asking here, Kylie, is the cell splitting true for Excel as well as for Word? The difference in Excel, okay, Cindy, is that you're not looking at a header row for the entire spreadsheet. When you're creating a table of data in Excel, it's going to be in a certain part of that spreadsheet. That's where the table starts and ends, and that's where the header row is going to be expected. So any part outside that table, okay, may be merged, but I am going to absolutely recommend that you avoid merging cells, whether in Excel or in Word, because that rule is sort of permeating out to any sort of application that involves rows and columns. But I can get back to you about the actual rule for now. But definitely in Excel, if you're creating an Excel table, no merging, no splitting, okay? Did that help you out, Cindy? Okay, thank you. All right, so just getting back on track over here, what this is going to screw up is the screen reader's knowledge of the reading order. The screen reader, when it has something like this, will be able to properly read the data in the table. It's going to expect January, okay, and the data under January, February, and the data under February, and everything under January is related to January, and anything under February is related to February, and it's simple and it works. When you do this, what you suddenly have is a disruption in the table structure. And that is no good. So you don't want that. So splitting cells has to not happen. Okay, now I merged the cell. I'm not supposed to merge cells, but in this case, it's okay because I simply reversed the damage I did in splitting the cells and brought it back to a regular table structure. So the only time that you should be able to merge cells is if you are trying to undo a split. Okay, does anybody have any questions or show of digital thumbs up? You guys are all good with this. Everybody good? I got a thumbs up here from Kylie, and I'm seeing some thumbs up over here. So fantastic. Another sin, okay, is nesting tables. I don't understand why people nest tables. I have seen it many times. What do I mean by nesting tables? What I mean is creating a table inside of a table. So let me go ahead and violate all my rules. I'm going to merge this cell here, these 4 cells, and I'm going to insert another table inside, okay? Okay, there may be a reason to do it as far as the sighted user is concerned. This doesn't look horrible, but it is a huge, well, Kylie's looking at me like, it probably does, at least to you it does, but it doesn't, you know, it's not like not as bad as some of the messes I've seen on other documents. However, as far as accessibility is concerned, this is a huge no-no. No nesting of tables. No tables inside tables is a complete disruption of the screen reader's ability to understand the content that is inside the table. So this is going to be a big undo, and that's going to go, and then I'm going to undo the merging of the cells, and I am back to my regular simple table layout, with the exception that this would have to go, but let's just pretend that this is not here right now. This is my full table. Now I have a good table, okay? Any questions about nesting tables and not doing that ever again, okay? All right, now, let's see over here. Not having headers in your top row, we already talked about that, okay? So the recommendations, as I've said, table title remains outside the table on top of it. Under the title, include a summary of what the table data says about the topic. Fantastic. As you can see, guys, that's it for the rules. There's nothing else to say, okay? A couple of other things, okay? Keep the colors out of the tables. Okay, so I'm gonna, oh, okay, here, let me put another don't in here. No shading, okay? Shading is great. It's okay for the sighted user, but what shading will do is it will create contrast issues between the text and the color of the cell. Anywhere there's a contrast issue in the document, accessibility checkers will flag it. So what you need is to have text that says empty cell or no data or whatever that happens to be. Some people will take these cells and shade them. So you can go up to, I have to see where it is in here, table design, table border, cell shading, and give it like one of these. Okay? That should not happen, because that takes us into the realm of color dependency on meaning. I mean, meaning dependent on colors, where if you only have the shade in here, nothing in it, then you are telling the world, okay, these cells are not relevant in this case for whatever reason. The screen reader won't even see the shading. It's just going to expect data in it. So you're going to need some kind of text alternative. So no data, okay? No data. Now, depending on the level of contrast between the shading and the text, you are running into the risk of contrast errors. I don't know if it'll give me that error, but if I go into review over here and I go to check accessibility, it's scanning, it's yelling at me at the moment for use of merged or split cells right over here, okay? When I click on it, it actually brings me to the offending area. What it's not giving me at the moment is hard to read text contrast. So the shading did not affect text contrast. But really, guys, nobody cares about the shading. It should stay black on white or white on black, but usually black on white, and some text indicator that there is no data in this cell. That way, you absolutely avoid any problems. Any questions about that? We good? Anybody quizzical about this? All right. Okay. So, examples of non-accessible layout table issues. Okay, here's another thing that you want to be very careful of. Another thing people use tables for, and I'm going to give you an example of this and show you a few examples here. One of the things people tend to use tables for is layout. And this used to happen when creating websites too, and you wanted to lay information out in a certain way. So what people would end up doing is they would merge cells. So if I go over here to table design and go over here and right click and merge my cells, and then I would merge a couple of cells here. And then let's say you wanted to place an image here and an image there. And then you want to merge these two cells because the data in here, you want to merge these two cells because the data in here is a little longer. So what I'm creating is a layout, okay? And thus, the results will look a little something like, and let me bring it up here. I'm going to bring you over to my SharePoint site. And let me make sure I've got the right file here. And hopefully SharePoint is working the way it's supposed to be, because it wasn't working right before this training started. Come on, baby. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to go in and open it. Hang on a second, guys. SharePoint. What I can do is open Adobe Acrobat. Give me a second, guys. Hang on. And I'm going to go over to my team. I'm going to pull up the file over here and then just drag it over. Looks okay. Look like things are slowing down again. Hang on, I'm waiting for it to open in Teams to see if we're still having, because this is not supposed to be taking this long. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly drag this in here. This is what I'm talking about. So let me close this. Let me go ahead and zoom this in some. Okay, so what you have over here is a table, okay? And this violates the rules of split and merge cells. This is a layout table. I have seen these millions of times on PDFs and on Word documents where you have the cells, but the cells are not consistently structured. This is what I mean by a layout table. These are merged, okay? They are not the same length. They are not the same width. There is inconsistency of the type of data inside of it, and the screen reader will go bananas. So this kind of structure cannot happen anymore. All right? You cannot use tables for layout, especially in this manner. A document like this can easily be created in something like Microsoft Forms, which is accessible by default and avoids all of these problems. And I've done some Microsoft Forms trainings recently, but I'm planning on doing them again. And this is a good idea for a Microsoft Form training, where if I take a table, a layout table like this, that can't happen anymore, let's go ahead and convert this into a Microsoft Form, which makes sense, is easily digestible, and is automatically accessible. Okay? Any questions on layout tables? Are we all good? If I don't see any thumbs, I'm assuming everybody understands. So, finally it came up. You see that? Thank you, Microsoft. Okay. I'm going to go away from it for this is the same table. It's just presented differently because it's shown in Adobe's document cloud. So let's go ahead and go back to the training itself. Let me get this thing out of here. Okay. Now that you know some of the simple rules, let's throw Copilot into the mix. All right. So I'm going to actually close Word over here. Now remember, Copilot is only available at this point, as per our license, in the browser version of Microsoft Office. Okay. So that's what we have available to us. But I have this table. Let's say I have this table and I get flagged for certain accessibility issues. I need some help in trying to figure out what I can do with this table. So I can go here in Copilot, and let's see what happens if I say to Copilot, Copilot, I'm waiting for Copilot. This is what I'm talking about, guys. Something is going on with Microsoft's network. It's slowing. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. They had a problem with Microsoft Azure this morning. Okay, here we go. All right, hopefully this will work. Okay, so let's say I want to ask Copilot, please make the tables in this document more accessible. That would be my first instinct, right? To see if Copilot can do the work for me. So now I'm going to see what it does. I'm going to tell it to think. It's going to think, and then it's going to give me some kind of an answer. So let's see what it tells me. Okay, fantastic. I've created a revised version of your document with more accessible tables, following the guidance in your original file. Now, move tables out of the title, ensure that the first row contains proper header cells, avoided merged cells, no shading or nested or split cells. So it's going along the lines of what I said in my document. Now, what it did not do was it did not affect my actual document here. It created a new one. And that's what happens when I first was talking about Copilot in Microsoft Office 365. One of the things I said was, especially in Word, it will not change your original document that you are working on. It will create a new one that is downloadable, and you're going to have to open it, at least in the beginning, in Microsoft Word that's installed on your hard drive. So I'm going to click on accessibletables.docx. It downloads it. I'm going to open the file. And here, it took my nasty document and didn't do any nasty table and didn't do anything with it, but it did create the accessible table over here. So it looks like what it was confused about was which table to work on. So what I'm going to try, I'm going to do a little experiment here. I'm going to delete this table. I want to see if I can't delete this table. okay, and delete the table here. And now I only have a single table in this document. So I'm going to try it again. Please make the table in this document more accessible. And let's see if it works. Again, I never guarantee the results of a Copilot prompt. So I'm going to go over here. Now it knows that it's got to be this table because there's only one table in this entire document. So it's going to review the data. It should find the table, and let's see what it does. So I'm going to take a look at the new file, and let's see if it did anything. Let's see it impress me. It gave me a table with no borders. And that is not supposed to happen. So as you can see, throwing Copilot into this situation doesn't exactly produce the greatest results. Let me click closed here. Let me de-shade this stuff here. So no color. Okay, let me just get rid of this data over here. And just gonna get rid of this and get rid of this and see if I get any different results. So, please, hold on, I'm gonna start a new conversation. I'm gonna try it one more time. Please make the table in this document more accessible. And let's see what it does. What it did do is it removed the title. So that's good, but I didn't expect it to remove the borders, okay? So, and when I tested this the other day, it came up with the table as it was supposed to look. So right now, Microsoft is not acquitting itself very well, but let's see what happens now. So here you go, create an accessible, remove the merged cells, provide the table title outside, and all the rules that I talked about. Now it's giving me the new file. I'm going to open the file. And again, it's not acquitting itself very well. So is this the right prompt to use? Well, maybe I should use something like, how can I make the table in this document more accessible? And I'm going to make it think, and I'm going to make it think. And it's going, okay, below is it clear how to make it more accessible, and it will tell you what you should do, okay? And it will actually give me a representation of what the table should look like. And just out of curiosity, I'm going to see if I can copy this table and paste it in. I don't know how that's going to work, but let's see what happens. And it actually gave me a table, interestingly, with shading. So, guys, as you can see, Copilot is not the all-knowing, all-being, omnipotent, sentient being that we are all being led to believe it is. It can't do everything. And this is why trainings like this, for you guys to use your own selves to produce these tables the right way and represent your data the right way, are so important. Do not rely totally on Copilot to produce what you need it to produce for you. It can produce something like that, but the being that the correct accessibility has to come from is still you. The AI is being used to generate accessibility in documents, but it's not quite there yet. At the pace that AI is developing, it should be ready in about a half an hour. Okay? That was a joke, but I think you guys understand. All right? So don't rely on the AI for this stuff, at least for now. Does anybody have any questions? Because that's really it. Okay, like I said, it's not a particularly long training. Yeah, the font it used wasn't the best either. I agree. I agree. Okay, so depend on yourselves, guys. All right, anyway, thank you very much. And I'll be seeing you guys in 1 week to talk about editing text in Adobe Acrobat. I said before I started the recording that editing text in Adobe Acrobat is a rabbit hole that can be pretty difficult to deal with, and I'm going to show you how best to deal with it. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, and see you next week. Okay, Jacqueline, I'm waiting for you. Not a problem. Anytime, guys. Thank you very much. All right, perfect.